Hello, you are watching News9 Digital's Facebook Live with me, Amrita, and today we will be discussing once again about drug abuse on a national front. So currently, drug abuse and substance abuse is very much in discussion. It started with Bollywood and Sushant Singh Rajput's case. Now it has also come down here to the Kannada film industry in Sandalwood, where several arrests were made and several actors, actresses, their associates were also detained for questioning in the same. Here in Sandalwood, the Bengaluru police seems to be uncovering more and more about a Bengaluru drug racket, or what they call it so. But what do past instances about drug investigations and more investigations into such rackets unravel to us? But what is going to be a logical end to these investigations, and what we might be expecting? Will this time around, will we be having something surprising mystery unravel before us about a big drug racket that is possibly under way right here in our several cities in India? Are we looking at something like that or not? So with regards to this, there was also a study published in an independent think tank, Vidhi Centre for Legal Policy, and in this particular study, which is called Criminalization Leads to Exploitation, the Mumbai story no one knows about, the researchers here have compiled a set of data about the police forces in Mumbai and their investigations into the various drug arrests and the charges which were levied on those who were arrested. It unravels one very concerning thing over here, and also several other things that it talks about: the Indian drug abuse law as well, the NDPS Act, and what it lacks and how it could be possibly implemented to better the lives of the people itself. So we also have on the phone line with us one of the authors of this particular study, Neha Singhal. Neha, thank you for joining us on this News9 Live and sharing us your insights on this study.
Thank you for having me. Hi.
Yeah, Neha, my first question to you is with regards to this particular statistics, where it says that 97.7% of the cases in 2017 and 97.3% of the cases in 2018 in the people who are arrested were for possession of personal consumption. It states that the big fishes or the big suppliers were never caught in these 97.7% of the cases. So we wanted to know your insights into how the investigations of the various agencies in India have been into unraveling drug rackets.
Okay, so historically, the NCB, the Narcotics Control Bureau, is tasked with heavier quantities of narcotics and psychotropic substances. Yes. So they are usually responsible for cross-border trafficking, interstate trafficking. This is the kind of work they do. Yes. The 97.7% or 97.3% that I have mentioned in the study, this is the state police's. So many different organizations are tasked with handling drug cases under the NDPS Act. State police handles your state limit, the cases that come within the state. So what usually happens is that they catch people who are either caught with quantities for personal consumption, that is less than small quantities. So for example, in heroin, just as an example, for heroin, small quantity would be quantity up to 5 grams of heroin. Yes. Intermediate quantity would be between 5 to 250 grams, and commercial quantity would be above 250 grams. Okay. What we see in the entire country, this study is limited to Bombay, but what we see in the entire country is that people are either being arrested for small quantities, for possession for self-consumption, or for intermediate quantity, which would be about 6, 7, 8 grams of heroin. Our estimate from our conversations with police, addict users, is that most people that are being arrested are actually personal consumers. These are not, or at the most, they are the fag end peddlers. The ones who interface with the consumers and carry small quantities and then feed their own habits. Yes. These are the people who are getting arrested. Traffickers are going scot-free across the country. Nobody is able to focus on traffickers. So this is a problem that has been continuing. It's just, there is this drug racket is something, every time something is in the news, somebody talks about some drug racket, but this is a very sporadic, once in a while thing that happens. It's not something that the police naturally does. Busting drug rackets is not a part of their, like, a full-time job.
All right. Also, in your study, it mentions that criminalization harms the very people it intends to protect on the NDPS law. So, can you elaborate on how possibly this particular act is flawed and whether it protects the people, whether it helps those people who are addicted to substances recover from their addiction or not?
So, the NDPS Act, at least on paper, does take a slightly sympathetic view towards addicts. So under Section 39, a judge is given the power to send an addict to a de-addiction center as opposed to sending him to prison. Similarly, Section 64A allows the public prosecutor to send a person to de-addiction centers as opposed to prosecuting him. And there is Section 71, which allows for de-addiction centers to exist and to administer substances which might be prohibited under the NDPS Act for recovery. So the law does provide for this situation under 3 sections, but the problem is that the law is still governing within the model of criminalization. And the first point of contact with that any addict or user usually has with the system is with the police. And the police is not trained to deal with any situations humanely. So when they do catch a user, they will not treat him humanely and send him to a de-addiction center or send him to a prosecutor and say, look, there's a person in trouble, let's send him and get him help. What they're going to do instead is arrest him and send him to jail. So even though the law sort of, not really, but only a little bit does provide for de-addiction and for recovery, the large model is still of deterrence, where punishment is still the go-to model for treating people.
Okay.
So the idea is, basically the idea is that if we scare people, people will not engage in these activities. If people think they can go to jail, they will not engage in these activities. That's the idea.
All right. So does this idea that the judiciary and even the police force seem to have in their mind, does that usually work, or are there changes and sensitization on this issue that needs to be made?
The study tells you that it doesn't work. It absolutely does not work. You can see what's happening in the national media also, and how people are being vilified for just being drug consumers. Yes. It does not work. Does there need to be training? Training will definitely help. It will be a good first step. But a very important thing that is needed is to remove criminal sanctions completely from self-use. Drug use, from my studying, my research, I can say this with a great amount of force. Drug use should not be a criminal offense at all. Because the second you make it a criminal offense, no amount of training in the world will help you when a situation like this arises, where somebody is to be vilified or a poor person has to be arrested. No amount of humanity or training service or training facilities is going to help this person. The thing that needs to be done for an addict or for a person who is a user and is in trouble is to send him to a de-addiction service, to send him to a psychiatrist, a doctor. Police force cannot be trained into treating these people because this is not in their job description.
Yes.
They don't know how to treat people well, as in,
Okay.
So,
all right. Thank you so much, Neha, for sharing us those insights, those very valuable insights, and explaining to us where the NDPS Act, which supposedly cracks down on drug trafficking as well as addiction, stands in our country today. So there is a base, a foundation for a sensitive look at how to treat those people who are addicted to substances and drugs, and how to treat them, how to bring it out of them, how to remove it from the society basically. But the implementation of the same is definitely questionable. And when it comes to the investigations itself, only time will tell us whether we will be looking at a surprise unraveling over here, or will it be just another one of those drug busts that we keep hearing in the past, some arrests made and them being sent to the jail. You can leave your opinion in the comment section down below. Also like, share and subscribe to News 9 Digital.